Good evening, I'm Erica Williams.
And I am Royden James with this weekend's July 12th edition of the HGP Nightly News Week in Review. Here is where we recap all the top stories carried by our newscast during the week. On Tuesday, July 7th, President David Granger convened a high-level meeting to address the recent escalation of violent crime. The Ministry of the Presidency had said that initial discussions for the development of a broad-based strategic crime-fighting approach intended to deliver short- and long-term goals were conducted with Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu, Minister of State Joseph Harmon, Minister of Public Security Kemraj Ramjatan, Minister of Social Cohesion Amna Ali, Commissioner of Police Silal Prasad, and Deputy Chief of Staff of the Guyana Defence Force Colonel Kemraj Prasad. By Wednesday, Nightly News reported that the Granger administration had devised a draft strategy to combat the rise in crime. An outline of the strategy was disclosed by Minister of State Joseph Harmon during his post-cabinet briefing. Also on Tuesday, Erica Williams reported that it was becoming clearer that poor financial accountability has resulted in rampant corruption at public institutions over the years. Former Auditor General Anand Gulsaran shared some suggestions to counter this plight.
During the recent launch of his second book on public accountability, titled Public Accountability at the Crossroads, The Guyana Experience, former Auditor General Anand Gulsaran proposed that Guyana ventures into the usage of the International Public Sector Accounting Standards. This is expected to result in the abandonment of the inherited colonial system presently being used.
We have not had the benefit of financial management reform from the point of view of accounting standards. We have inherited a system from colonial times, archaic, cumbersome, and it is still running with little or no modifications over the years. So in that article, I've advocated that we introduce accounting standards, and I'm thinking about international public sector accounting standards as a way forward.
The application of the proposed accounting standard is expected to improve Guyana's financial reporting framework.
Then we have the situation where there are hardly any organized internal audit departments in government, though I know the Ministry of Finance is trying to put together something, but that's no substitute for strong and effective internal audit departments, at least at the larger ministries.
Also, Gulsaran revealed in the presence of a number of influential members of society that he has been working with the APNUFC government to strengthen the budget process.
So I've put together all my thoughts and all my knowledge and experience, trying to help the public to understand our budgetary process, our procurement processes, and of course, an understanding of the public debts.
Gulsaran said readers will also be able to access articles on the recent chaotic budget cuts and court rulings for unlawful spending by members of the previous administration, among other things.
I have some commentary on the Chief Justice ruling and how it's interpreted by the administration and what really went wrong. And then you have the 5.44 or $4.54 billion in unauthorized expenditure.
Gulsaran said the book is a collection of articles previously published in the Stabroek News under the theme Accountability Watch. During June 2012 to December 2013, he added that the book comprises of 81 articles addressing issues relating to governance and transparency. Gulsaran's first book, titled Improving Public Accountability, The Guyana Experience 1985 to 2007, was launched on October 9, 2012. For HGP Nightly News, I'm Erica Williams. The former Home Affairs Minister Clement Rohi criticized the just implemented 2 a.m. bar closures by the Public Security Minister. Mr. Rohi believes that will not solve anything. Additionally, he said too that there appears to be no plan to stem the current tide of crime gripping the country.
It is no doubt that crime in Guyana is presently on the increase again, and while the administration is yet to detail a comprehensive plan to effectively combat the present spate of criminal activities, former Home Affairs Minister Clement Rohi is of the view that the administration seems to be having a tough time addressing the crime situation.
I've noticed Mr. Ramjatan, he was one of the most vocal men in Parliament who had the solutions. So did Mr. Granger, he had the solutions too. They all had the solutions. So I anticipated when those guys walked into office at the President and the State House and the respective ministers, they all had a blueprint in their hands and they knew what they were going to do. But now I'm reading Ramjatan saying he don't know what to do. And I'm reading he's saying that this thing is so overwhelming.
Roy speculated that the Granger administration does not have an anti-crime plan. He said during his tenure, he had asked the former commissioner of police for an anti-crime plan, and it was presented to him even though it took a while. He said too, like in everything else, the devil was in the details and the implementation. And even as the Guyana Police Force celebrates its 176th anniversary, Roy is not too much in favor of the body being equipped with more road transport.
I don't think providing vehicles is going to be the answer to the problem. I don't have a problem with more vehicles being provided, but I will deal with the vehicular question at a later stage. Because when I left the Ministry of Home Affairs, the police really wasn't short of vehicles.
Onto that 2 a.m. curfew for bars, something which is prevalent in several countries around the Caribbean. Roy is not seeing eye to eye with Public Security Minister Khemraj Ramjatan on that one. He feels the curfew will not achieve anything.
I don't support it. I never did it when I was there, my friend. So why would I support it now? This country is a very open and relaxed country. You know, there's a certain culture which we share with the Caribbean, as Caribbean people. And I have never ever noticed during my tenure as a Minister of Home Affairs that bars and clubs remaining open after 2 o'clock led to any spike. There's no scientific data that anyone could provide.
Crime fighting is a complex issue according to Roy. He believes crime has to be looked at from all dimensions, inclusive of violence prevention. A collective approach with active involvement from key stakeholders and government ministries is what is needed, Roy stressed. He maintains that the police alone cannot do it, yet everyone looks to the police. Under Roy's watch as Home Affairs Minister, a mountain of unsolved murders was accumulated.
Royden James reported that the state's Assets Recovery Unit is deep in its works, and Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu warned that as bad things hit the fan, law enforcement will clean the air.
We will not hasten to prosecute those who corrupted the country, but when we reach that bridge, we will cross it. That's what Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu told a gathering recently at the launching of Anand Gulsaran's second book. The Prime Minister also reiterated that the government will do everything in its power to detect corruption.
We would not prosecute anyone unless we had forensic audits. And those forensic audits must reveal the evidence that we could take to court to successfully prosecute those who had raided the people's monies.
Prime Minister Nagamutu pledged the new government's full commitment to having a corruption-free Guyana, even as he reminded of the forensic audits that are being conducted. The acting president noted that thus far, several entities were found flooded with corruption.
Khemraj Ramjatan, as leader of the Alliance for Change, had been very unrelenting in his exposure of NISIL. And I believe that if I were to identify one single entity that symbolized corruption, it is that institution.
The Prime Minister said too that the government will not stoop to the opposition show us the evidence level, but they will continue to work to unearth corruption and let the law take its course.
Some of these former ministers, some I suppose would be foreign soon, want to tempt us to look for the coins. So they're saying, show us the vehicles. But we are also concerned about missing vehicles, missing furniture, missing beds, as well as large sums of money.
Prime Minister Nagamutu made those pronouncements as corruption appears to be at the highest level was highlighted in Dr. Gulsaran's book. Mr. Gulsaran's first book was launched on October 9, 2012. It was titled Improving Public Accountability, The Guyana Experience 1985 to 2007. Royden James for HGP Nightly News. And finally, we reported on Tuesday that a Regent Street businessman had become the latest victim of the already high spike in crime. His relatives believe that the killing was a robbery attempt, rather than an execution. Here's more.
Residents of La Jealousy West Coast Demerara are now in a state of shock after a Regent Street businessman was executed in front of his home last evening. Police are now investigating the circumstances surrounding the death of proprietor of the Regent Street Multiplex Mall on Regent Street, Ganesh Ramlal. Even though the police are considering that the killing had been a hit, family members are of a different opinion. When Nightly News arrived at the man's La Jealousy home, several family members were reluctant to say what happened. After consulting with several other relatives, a young woman who presented herself as the daughter of the deceased businessman requested that the newscast not take any videos of the surroundings or persons within the yard. After the request was granted, another relative arrived and explained that the killing had resulted from a robbery, adding that there was no need for media coverage. When asked about what was stolen, there was still reluctance from the said relative. He eventually said that several pieces of jewelry on the person of the deceased businessman were stolen by the killers. But a source close to the investigation revealed that the two men on bicycles arrived and entered the gated yard of the businessman. After making their way in, the source said that the men found the businessman, who was in the yard, and discharged 5 rounds which struck him in the upper body. The source said that one of the shooters then discharged a fatal round to the businessman's head. The family have put out an award of $5 million for any leads to the criminals. Police informed this newscast that they're exploring all angles of the case in order to find who could have committed the crime last evening. Here on Regent Street at Regent Multiplex Mall, I am Javon Vickery for HGP Nightly News.
Well, more of the review still ahead. Stay with us.
Interested in honoring or paying tribute to a loved one, or just making a loved one feel special? HGP TV offers you all that and more. Air your birthday greetings, death announcements, and wedding anniversaries on HGP TV today. HGP TV offers affordable prices, convenience, and great services. Pick up the phone now and call us on 220-3660 or email us at sales@hgptv.com.
Welcome back. On Wednesday, Erica Williams reported that the recent spike in serious crime has the administration on its toes as they vigorously strive to remedy the situation.
The Granger administration has devised a draft strategy to combat the rise in crime. This comes as the opposition PPPC and the Indian Action Committee plead with the authorities to take a grip of the situation. The outline of the strategy was disclosed by Minister of State Joseph Harmon during the post-cabinet press briefing on Wednesday.
Essentially, the President discussed 5 aspects of what the overall strategy will entail.
The 5 aspects of this overall crime-fighting strategy outlined by President David Granger gives consideration to border control, which is high on the agenda because it was recognized by the APNU-AFC administration that Guyana is porously bordered by countries who are producers of small arms.
There was a clear direction to the police that we have to put more policemen on patrol and to remove them out of the offices where they are engaged in what are known as non-core functions of the Guyana Police Force.
Over the years, persons have continuously complained about the slowness of the police's response to complaints of crimes. Minister Harmon said this issue, among others, is addressed in the crime-fighting draft.
The response time to complaints made by citizens, the operation of the 911 facility, all of these are part of the strategy, and all of these are going to be subjected to serious review over the next couple of weeks.
The government has also committed to providing the necessary assets to the police force for fighting crime in Guyana's various terrains, while resuscitation of the Guyana Police Force Marine Wing is underway.
The use of animals, of horses, of dogs, to go after criminals are all going to be part of that strategy. Finally, police communication will be improved significantly by the use of the internet by the use of computers and by access to the closed-circuit television cameras.
The outlining of a complete crime-fighting strategy by the administration comes after the opposition accused the government of not having a concrete plan to remedy the crime situation. For HGP Nightly News, I'm Erica Williams.
Handel Duncan reported that Dr. Bharat Jagdeo is set to lead the PPC in the House. Finally, that party is making moves to head to Parliament. This is coming after a series of protests outside of GCOM regarding what the party called rigged elections conducted in May of this year.
Handel Duncan also reported that from where the People's Progressive Party Civic is sitting, that party cannot see local government elections anytime this year, but GCOM has commenced preparations.
The People's Progressive Party Civic, through its General Secretary Clement Royas, stated that the party has taken note of what it terms the comical and nonsensical statement made by Mr. Ronald Bulkad, Minister of Communities, that local government elections will be held in November of 2015.
Mr. Bulkad needs to have his head examined. He is fully aware of the reality that local government elections cannot be held in this year. He is throwing dust in the eyes of the electorate by making them believe that the APNU-AFC coalition administration is sticking to its first 100 days commitment by holding local government elections before the end of this year.
Roy went on to say that through a sleight of hand arrangement, the coalition will attempt to fool the people by telling them that while they want local government elections this year, as was promised, it could not proceed because GCOM is not ready and fully prepared to do so.
And GCOM, already cast in the role of the handmaiden of the coalition, will no doubt play a supporting role to this subterfuge engineered by the coalition government of Granger and his acolytes.
The PPPC General Secretary highlighted that with the 2015 budget calculated to be presented in August and considering all the implications for the annual parliamentary recess, the nation should be expecting the elections to be held in the second half of the next year.
Way back in November last year, Vincent Alexander, a PNC GCOM commissioner, advisor to the Minister of Education, how he will constitutionally reconcile these two functions is yet to be seen, had stated, quote, GCOM has said it needs 6 months to deal with elections. Calculation of these 6 months start when government says it wants elections, end of quote. This means that since government wants elections in November 2015, according to Alexander's calculations, local government elections can be held in May of 2016.
The PPPC is also reinstating its position as regards contesting any elections with Dr. Steve Surjabali as chairman of GCOM. The PPPC is demanding certain reforms at GCOM. The party wants Dr. Steve Surjabali to be replaced, a total revamp of the machinery of GCOM, among other things. GCOM over the weekend commenced advertising for the expressions of interest for the production of local government elections voters' education materials. The commission this week has indicated too that it is currently in the early stages of preparations for the likely conduct of the elections. These include the training of all categories of staff. The commission stated that the preparations were being done ahead of the announcement of a definitive date from the Minister of Communities.
Royden James was there when First Lady Mrs. Sandra Granger advised young students to remain focused as she delivered the feature address at the 5th graduation exercise of the Success Elementary School at the National Cultural Center.
Our country needs educated people. Our country needs dedicated people. And you are among the young people who can contribute to making our country great.
First Lady Miss Sandra Granger as she delivered the feature address of the Success Elementary School's 5th graduation exercise at the National Cultural Center on Tuesday evening. Mistress Granger charged the graduates to remain focused and reminded them of the importance of being educated as she spoke of the need to develop some sectors in Guyana.
Guyana is a blessed country. We have a wealth of human and natural resources in agriculture, forestry, mining, to name a few. We need to develop our energy sector.
Mistress Granger said too that students need the necessary knowledge and skills to function optimally in today's society, as she hinted at the high unemployment rate in Guyana.
Our young people are the hope of our country. Over 50% of our population is below the age of 24. Sadly, many of them are jobless and have stopped looking for work.
The Success Elementary School copped several of the top spots at the 2015 National Grade 6 Assessment, with Solomon Chirai securing the #1 position with a whopping 530 marks, only short 5 of the total target mark. Chirai was followed by his classmate Shania Eastman, who copped the 2nd position with a total of 529 marks. 6th position went to their classmate Afia London for gaining 525 marks. Royden James for HGP Nightly News. Well, more of the review still ahead. Stay with us.
Interested in honoring or paying tribute to a loved one, or just making a loved one feel special? HGP TV offers you all that and more. Air your birthday greetings, death announcements, and wedding anniversaries on HGP TV today. HGP TV offers affordable prices, convenience, and great services. Pick up the phone now and call us on 220-3660 or email us at sales@hgptv.com.
Guyana has reached out for international help to amicably settle the border dispute with Venezuela. Guyana's head of state, David Granger, on Thursday brought the nation up to date on the country's position regarding the issue.
President David Granger, in an unprecedented move, addressed the National Assembly on Thursday during the 4th sitting of the 11th Parliament on what is termed a matter of national importance. The purpose of the address was to bring the House, and by extension the nation, abreast with developments in relation to the decrees issued by the President of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. According to the President, the decrees issued by that country has impinged on Guyana's sovereignty and the country's rights to its exclusive economic zones.
Decree number 1787, published in Venezuela's official gazette number 40.669 and dated May 26, 2015, had repeated that country's baseless assertions that the entire Western Essequibo was a zona en reclamación, and restated its quest for a salida al Atlántico.
President Granger said that for 50 years, Venezuela has relentlessly sought to claim the Essequibo. He chronicled decades of activities of several past presidents in Venezuela that sought to add weight to the claim that Essequibo belongs to that country. He stated also that Guyana has never used aggression against any state and has always embraced peaceful settlement of disputes.
But inasmuch as we are a peace-loving nation, we will not allow our territorial integrity to be threatened or violated.
He said, though, that Guyana has no interest in being aggressive with Venezuela.
A country that is 912,050 square kilometers, more than 4 times the size of Guyana. A country with a population of more than 40 times that of Guyana's. A country with armed forces, the National Bolivarian Armed Forces, with more than 20 times as many members as the Guyana Defense Force. How can Guyana launch an aggression against Venezuela?
Since the recent decrees, Guyana sought solidarity with the regional and international communities.
During the course of the CARICOM summit, I had the pleasure of meeting with the Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Ban Ki-moon. I shared with him Guyana's position. He has committed to sending a mission to both Venezuela and Guyana. I thank him for his pledge and look forward to receiving his mission to Guyana.
In the short term, Guyana will seek to have all threats withdrawn, but in the long term, will be seeking a permanent judicial solution under the auspices of the Geneva Agreement and international law. Thus, the President wants the support of the House. Venezuela has since recalled its ambassador for consultations, plans to reduce staff at its embassy in Georgetown, and gave a directive to its Foreign Affairs Minister to re-examine all diplomatic relations with Guyana.
Another interesting story reported on Thursday. Acting Chief Justice Ian Chang has cleared the way for former presidents to serve as head of state after having served for 2 terms. The decision was handed down in the High Court. The ruling stemmed from the motion taken before the court by private citizen Cedric Richardson, who argued that the move by the Guyana's National Assembly to restrict a president to be able to serve only 2 terms in office is illegal in its current form, and that such a major constitutional reform required a referendum. In his ruling, the Chief Justice stated that the alteration or replacement of the original 1980 preamble did not receive the approval of Guyanese citizens by way of referendum. Yet, it declares that as the citizens of Guyana, the people adopt these fundamental laws and make provisions for their amendments to reflect changes in the society. He also stated that Article 9 of Guyana's Constitution guarantees the Guyanese people's sovereignty through their representatives and the democratic organs established by or under this Constitution. It all means that former President Bar Jagdeo is entitled to serve as head of state once more.
Days after the government of Guyana declared war against criminal elements, a sitting judge and her spouse were attacked, battered, and robbed in their home at Felicity, East Coast, Demerara. Javon Vickery reported that story.
Bandits in the wee hours of this morning managed to scale this fence and invaded the house as seen behind me, owned by a Lands Court judge. 5 bandits broke into the Felicity East Coast Demerara home of Land Court Judge Nicola Pierre. The police say that the men tied up a security guard in the hut seen here and made their way into the house. Once inside, the thieves held up the occupants, that the judge, her husband Mohammed Chan, and their 11-year-old son. The thieves resorted to the use of force. The judge and her spouse were gun-butted. After the attack, the men carted off with a safe and a suitcase belonging to the family. However, Crime Chief Wendell Blanham told Nightly News during a telephone conversation that there was an exchange of gunfire between the bandits and a security guard on duty at a neighboring residence.
Based on reports that we would have received with a security guard, and during the exchange of gunfire, the police were alerted. The police responded and found these persons within the vicinity of where the incident would have occurred.
The crime chief also said that both the judge and her husband were admitted to a private hospital. But the thieves failed to make a clean getaway. They were all captured by the police, who responded very quickly.
The police would have also recovered a safe along with a suitcase.
A suitcase? Could you say what the suitcase had inside, if you could say?
Both of them, they're locked with combinations.
Following an emergency meeting with several officials from the Guyana Police Force, the government of Guyana sent a stern message to criminal elements as a plan to tackle crime was enforced. Here at Felicity North East Coast Demerara, I am Javon Vickery for HGP Nightly News.
The Minister of Communities and GCOM appear to agree that local government elections can be held this November. At least one GCOM commissioner believes the commission is ready to play ball. Royden James spoke with Mr. Vincent Alexander.
On Monday, the People's Progressive Party, through its General Secretary Clement Rohi, was very critical of a statement in the National Assembly by Minister of Communities Ronald Bulkan, in which the minister had hinted at his desire to hold local government elections in November. Mr. Rohi said it was just another gimmick by the government, adding that it was an impossible task. However, GECOM Commissioner Mr. Vincent Alexander said that elections can well be held in November of this year.
It could be held in November once the relevant minister gives us the directive and once the legislature cooperates in the few things that need to be done.
Rohi had said too that the Guyana Elections Commission GECOM is not yet ready for such a great task. He even quoted Mr. Alexander to give credence to his assertion. That too was addressed by Mr. Alexander.
We had said that a period of 6 months was required for the preparation for local government elections. We are now, from now to November, would give you, I think, approximately four months or thereabout. Some of the things that the 6 months would have required would have been partially done in preparation for other elections.
The opposition People's Progressive Party had also noted that they will not be going into the elections once Dr. Suraj Bali remained as chairman of the Elections Commission. But Alexander said that the Constitution does not provide for the firing of the elections chairman simply at the request of a party that has lost an election.
The question of the composition of GECOM is a matter for the legislature. As it is now, the law provides for 7 commissioners, Suraj Bali being the 7th. There is no mechanism I know of that can have him removed unless the legislation is changed or he declines. And as a commissioner, I have to work with what I have.
In a statement issued on Thursday, the Ministry of Communities said officials of the ministry and GECOM had met on the issue. The statement noted that both parties had expressed optimism and confidence that their respective agencies are capable of disposing of any outstanding issues related to the holding of local government elections, including, but not limited, to delineation of the boundaries of local government organs, wherever current circumstances indicate the desirability for such adjustments, and updating any relevant legislation as required. The statement had noted too that Minister Bolkan had said in his address to the National Assembly in June 26 that he had indicated to GECOM that the government would like, ideally, for local government elections to be held in November 2015. In line with the promise made during the campaign to return political power to the people. Royden James for HGP Nightly News. The Granger administration promises that persons in the diaspora as well as locals living outside of Georgetown will soon be able to receive their passports in a much shorter time. Erica Williams filed that story.
The government, through Minister of Citizenship Winston Felix, has approved $9.7 million to buy additional equipment to beef up services at the passport office. This step was taken to reduce the current pileup of passport applications at the office as well as to increase the efficiency of the organization.
Cabinet was asked to approve, and in fact did approve, a sum of in the vicinity of $9.7 million to facilitate additional equipment for the passport office.
Minister Harman revealed that this initiative is geared to provide swifter delivery of passports.
This, Cabinet was assured, will reduce the time it takes for any Guyanese in the diaspora having a passport application at the passport office, that within 5 days, not 5 months, within 5 days, that those passports will be made ready for the diaspora, the persons in the diaspora.
Further, the administration has already begun taking steps to decentralize passport applications, allowing persons in areas such as Berbice, Linden, and the hinterland to also have easier access to their passports.
That steps are being taken to ensure that there is a certain level of decentralization of passport applications and the delivery of the passports, so that a Guyanese citizen in Berbice, in Linden, at Bartica, at Lethem, and in the hinterland locations, which will make it easier for them to access these essential documents which are necessary.
Over the years, persons living outside of Georgetown have relentlessly complained about having to travel to the city to submit passport applications. Additionally, during the APNU-AFC government victory rally in New York, persons complained about the lengthy time it takes to receive passports. For HGP Nightly News, I'm Erica Williams.
The government has thrown its full support behind the Guyana National Road Safety Council's objective to promote road safety in Guyana. Royden James followed that story.
Speaking at a stakeholders consultation meeting on road safety on Wednesday, Public Security Minister Khemraj Ramjatan reassured the Guyana National Road Safety Council of the government's commitment to the council's plans and programs. He also spoke of the importance of the Guyana National Road Safety Council's participation in the reduction of road fatalities. While praising the works of the Road Safety Council, Minister Ramjatan said he is impressed with how the council has dealt with some of the grievances and complaints and the ideas they have brought and the passion they have demonstrated for the sector.
And I am very, very happy to note the fact that indeed this Road Safety Council is but that which is proving that civil society's activities and participation is going to help this major difficulty we have in this sector.
Minister Ramjatan noted too that the council has been surviving well, even with the little income they received from the previous government. In fact, with just a $3.5 million annual subvention, the council has been conducting many programs countrywide and painting pedestrian crossings, among others.
And also, even more wonderful, the fact that they were coming up with suggestions for a resolution to some of these problems. And of course, with the kind of passion they had.
Delivering the feature address at the event was President David Granger. He told stakeholders that his participation in the forum was a clear indication of the importance his government places on the issue, as he too is in the fight to reduce road fatalities in Guyana.
People just want to do what the hell they like on the roads and believe they can bribe their way out of any situation. We have to have stricter law enforcement.
The objective of the meeting was to update stakeholders on the national road safety activities conducted thus far for 2015 to identify gaps in road safety nationally based on analysis of national data and traffic reports, and to develop a work plan for the implementation of priority activities aimed at addressing the gaps. Royden James for HGP Nightly News. The Granger administration has announced its decision to review money spent so far by the previous administration under the Rural Development Fund. But former Tourism Minister Irfan Ali, who was left in charge of that fund, says he is shocked at the government's move. More details from Erica Williams.
After $1 billion was approved in the 2014 budget for the Rural Development Fund, the APNU-AFC government is now claiming it cannot find documents that account for approximately $100 million spent on at least 5 projects thus far.
What was most important was that the Minister of Business, being the business person he is, looking now for proposals and documents that have to do with these projects. But of course, he could find nothing.
The Rural Development Fund was created to provide employment in various rural areas, with initiatives such as a plant and chip factory at Wakenham and Legwan.
Some works that were being done at Wakenham, at Legwan, at Tushin, on the west coast of Demerara, and at Enmore on the east coast of Demerara. These projects, the ones at Wakenham and Legwan, had to do with the establishment of a plantain chip factory and call centers.
As a result of these findings, the government has decided to put a hold on these projects to conduct a review on the finances which were set aside in 2014.
That they conduct a very serious review of the monies spent under this project.
Minister Harman said other ministers of government, such as Minister of Communities Ronald Bulkan and Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu, will be a part of the review team.
They are for the purpose to which they were intended, if they're going to provide employment at the rural level, whether in fact they are feasible, whether you can continue with them or what. But the fact of the matter is that there seems to be very little documentation on these large sums of money that have been spent on these projects, and which, of course.
Meanwhile, former Tourism Minister Irfan Ali is quoted as saying that he's baffled as to how Business Minister Dominique Gasking can make such claims.
The report from the Minister of State and Minister Gaskin lacks factual basis. First of all, the Rural Development Fund was established under the People's Progressive Party civic government. This fund was approved by the National Assembly, and the various projects that were earmarked to be financed under this fund were outlined in the budget debates, and further in the Committee of Supplies. In the Committee of Supplies, all questions relating to these projects were asked and answered.
For HGP Nightly News, I'm Erica Williams.
Finance Minister Winston Jordan has apologized to the National Assembly for misinformation he delivered to the House during its previous sitting. The minister had told the House that the country's external debt had been pegged at $1.6 billion. This figure was soon after disputed by former Finance Minister Dr. Asghar Ali. Minister Jordan told the House on Thursday that after taking the opportunity to recheck the numbers, that is the public debt comprising of external debt and domestic debt, which stands at US $1.6 billion, not the external debt alone. Guyana's external debt figure has been readjusted to the sum of $1.2 billion. The minister then offered an apology to the earlier mistake and the erroneous impression created.
On Friday, Handel Duncan reported that the National Assembly on Thursday afternoon approved the former President's Benefits and Other Facilities Bill 2015, which now puts a limit as to how much former presidents will benefit after demitting office.
Minister of Finance Winston Jordan on Thursday presented the former President's Benefits and Other Facilities Bill 2015, which placed caps on the amount of cash payable on several of the benefits granted to former Guyanese heads of state. The 2015 bill repeals the former President's Benefits and Other Facilities Bill of 2009. The former President's Benefits and Other Facilities Bill of 2015 was subsequently passed unanimously and without amendments in the National Assembly.
It provides for greater specificity, acceptability, and predictability of the entitlements of former presidents. And third, it specifies the conditions under which the benefits may be enjoyed.
The minister went on to draw a comparison under the previous act what a former president would receive when compared to a specific international president.
Had we copied the formula applied to our financially better off friend, the USA, a former president in Guyana would have been receiving currently a gross pension equivalent to US $2,895 in keeping with our current circumstances and ability to pay. Instead, we have a situation where a former president is enjoying a tax-free pension.
The previous package sparked controversy for its size, quantum, and audacity, Minister Jordan told the National Assembly. He further explained that the uncapped taxpayer-funded benefits package was vulgar and lacked moral values. He then pointed to how much already former President Bar Jagdeo has benefited handsomely.
The state spent more than $45 million on former President Bar Jagdeo's light bill, transportation, and security between December 2011 and February 2014.
It was also reported by the Government Information Agency that the amended bill will see the expenses for water, electricity, and telephone services capped at $75,000 monthly. The services of personal staff, including a gardener, provided that the total number of such staff not exceed 3 persons, services of 3 clerical and technical staff who must be qualified, free medical care or reimbursement of medical services set at $200,000 per annum for him or herself or spouse once the treatment needed is not available at local government institutions. 2. Full-time personal security to vehicles owned and maintained by the state, toll-free transportation, and an annual vacation allowance of 2 first-class airfare tickets. All benefits will cease if the former president engages in business, trade, or paid employment, or is convicted of a criminal offense for which a term of imprisonment is imposed.
The much anticipated and recently passed Anti-Money Laundering Countering the Financing of Terrorism Amendment Bill will soon be ascended shortly by President Granger.
The bill is now on the desk of His Excellency. It has already been sealed, and I suspect that within a very short space of time, His Excellency will be signing it.
That was Minister of State Joseph Harmon sharing the good news on the status of the AML bill during the recently held post-cabinet press briefing.
We are just as anxious as you are, and every other bank or business entity is, in ensuring that we have anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism legislation.
With the passing of the amendment bill, Guyanese can expect a strong legislation that will deal with issues affecting them. The administration has already started additional works to enforce other aspects of the bill.
International compliance is one aspect of it, but it also requires some other administrative action to be taken by the state. And those actions we have already started to take, such as the establishment of SOCO, that's a specialized organized crime unit, and there are some other things which we are doing.
Minister Harmon wasted no time in highlighting the strength of the coalition's proposition of the amendments for the AML CFT bill in the National Assembly as they sat in the opposition benches.
We feel confident that the legislation which we have actually debated and passed in the National Assembly and to be assented by the President will satisfy those requirements.
Minister Harmon also warned that though the administration is confident that the bill will be compliant with international standards, they are cognizant of possible changes in the future. The long-awaited passing of the bill will bring much relief to legitimate businesses and banking institutions and to all Guyanese at large, simplifying the process of international financial transactions. For HGP Nightly News, I'm Erica Williams.
Well, that has been the HGP Nightly News, a week in review.
Join us again same time next week for another edition. I'm Erica Williams.
And from all of us here, I am Royden James. Goodbye.
Goodbye.